And as I told you, they'll be looking at budget this afternoon. Also be engaging the chief executive of the telecoms chamber on proposals that they could be taxing mobile money. What does he make of it? Let's look at the details. And revenue mobilization could be the finance minister's biggest challenge as he prepares to present the 2018 budget to Parliament tomorrow. It's already been christened the Ejuma budget. Now, one of the highlights of the budget would be the projected revenue for next year. Now, this is why a lot of analysts are looking forward to see how government plans to raise the required revenue to finance its rising expenditure. So, will the finance minister be able to pass that revenue test when he comes before Parliament tomorrow? Or earlier when I tried to explore some of these issues in the following report. So we'll bring you that analysis later on why revenue is such a big deal when it comes to the 2018 budget. So let's do some analysis on this with the economist, Dr. Eric Osei-Sibe. He is a senior economist at the Economics Department, University of Ghana, Legon. Mr. Eric Osei-Sibe, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon on Marketplace. So let me first ask you, why is revenue such a big deal?
Well, thank you for having me on your program. Good afternoon to your cherished listeners. Yes, definitely it's a big deal because, government is focused on spending a lot more on social services. I mean, the quality and the quantity of social services are increasing, and it forms a greater part of government expenditures. And so for these kind of expenditures, definitely they have to be financed for. You have to find revenue either from within or from external sources to finance them. And if already you have very huge budget deficit, large budget deficits that is around 9–10%, and you are looking to bringing it down to about 6%, and you also already have very high debt to GDP, about 71%, then of course you have very little choice than to look within for more revenue, so that you'll be able to fund your projects, your expenditure plan, and also you'll be able to close the expenditure gap and gradually bring the debt burden down. And so government doesn't have much choice if government is still bent on reducing the debt stock and also reducing the large budget deficit. Then the only way out will be for government to mobilize enough domestic revenue to finance its expenditures.
Mr. Osei-Sibe, I also want to ask you now. There are projections that government could be raising about 50 billion Ghana cedis next year. If you look at the size of the economy again, can we realize all these revenue to actually fund all the projects that we want to do in the 2018 budget?
Well, it's possible. It's possible if we strengthen the revenue mobilization and tax administration policies and have very good tax policies in place. It is possible because this economy is big, it's huge, about 48 billion GDP economy. It's good enough to generate that kind of money. And so it all depends on what kind of tax strategies that we're going to have, the tax administrative side, and then the tax collection regime is very important, because the whole idea is not as if there's no money. I mean, there are quite a number of people in this country who are still not paying tax. And so what is important is government to roll out effective tax collection regime and bringing on board a lot more companies or firms or individuals or enterprises that are not paying tax, particularly in regard to property tax, if you look at the way the urban sectors are expanding and the new construction that is going on, if government targets such areas and also try to enforce compliance in all areas of tax sectors, then it's possible that that could be achieved. But that would also be a challenge for government, particularly where government depends so much on trade taxes. You know, the trade taxes, the problem with trade taxes is that it's very volatile. It depends on global economic conditions. And so if people are not bringing the goods and services, you can be very efficient at the harbor or at the exit points. But if the things are not coming in, then you don't generate enough revenue. But I think it's possible if the political will is there and we put together a very good tax strategies and deploy technology. There's no doubt that we cannot achieve that target that we have mentioned.
Sesibe, I want to put you on the line here. You are the finance minister. Looking at the size of the economy again, looking at what you're bringing in as revenue. If you mobilize every 10 Ghana cedi, about 5 Ghana cedi of that goes to settle salaries. About 3 of them should help you with statutory payments. About 2 should go to, let's just say, interest payments and all those things. Left with about 2 Ghana cedis to fund your free SHS, to fund your social intervention programs. Would you increase taxes or look at compliance to raise in more revenue, looking at the size of the economy?
Well, I think it should be a combination of both. I mean, you cannot have your cake and
so you increase taxes?
Not necessarily increasing taxes, but you have to find a way of broadening the tax base and making sure that your tax revenue increase. However, you're going to do it, because you cannot roll out such social policies without having to letting the people pay in some other way. Otherwise, you're going to put a lot of stress on the fiscal, and you may have to trade it off with, let's say, spending on roads. I mean, your capital expenditure is definitely going to go down, because, like you're rightly saying, you are using a chunk of your revenue generated in paying statutory payment, in servicing debt, and in paying salaries. It's the three add up to about 100%. In fact, last year it was 101%, and which means that the only way you can spend on infrastructure is to borrow. And if the government is actually sticking to its debt sustainability and management plan, then there's an extent to which government can borrow. So it has to find a way of making sure that the people who are benefiting from these social policies at least contribute something towards it. Public good have to be provided, but public good have to be paid for in a way that is much more sustainable and that is much more predictable. For me, there's no two ways about that.
Dr. Eric Osesibe is a senior lecturer at the economics department at the Power of Technology, joining us all the way from University of Ghana campus at your office. Appreciate for your time so much as we do the analysis on the 2018 budget, and also the fact that the finance minister will be presenting the budgets on Wednesday to Parliament again, and of course the economic policy. What are the expectations out there as a focus on stabilizing the economy, transforming agriculture, as well as industrialization and strengthening social protection inclusion? Here are some of the highlights of the projected allocations in the 2018 budget. So we're still talking about taxes and the 2018 budget, and one thing that we're hearing from the grapevine, or it's been rumored, basically by the minorities, that when you walk to that agent to do mobile money to your granny, to your friend, apart from what the telcos would charge you in terms of service tax, there is the likelihood that you'll be paying some taxes on it. But let's talk to somebody who actually manages these chamber of the telecoms, making up all the mobile telecoms. So actually, Ken Ashigbe, former MD of Graphic Communications Group, and now the new chief executive of the telecoms chamber. Ken, great to have you in studio.
Thank you very much,
and it's a pleasure to have a discussion with you on such an interesting thing. So let me first ask you, normally when some of these taxes are about to be introduced, if it's true, there's some level of industry engagement about expecting the unknown. Has there been any engagement from the Bank of Ghana, from the Ministry of Finance, on the possible taxing of mobile money?
No, I think the answer is no, not directly. And if we want to understand what has happened, and you consider the fact that mobile money also falls within financial services. And you see, and this is a government that has waived the taxes that are on
financial services,
which the incidence was more on the middle to the upper class. Then you would not expect that, you know, we would tax mobile money where the incidence is on the masses. You know, you would think that same people who do not have bank accounts but are operating mobile money accounts virtually as their store of their banks. You know, you would expect that the same benefit that me and you who have bank accounts get would also be extended to them. So there's been no engagement, but we believe that with that same philosophy that the government did, you know, with financial services, the same thing would apply to mobile money as well, and there will be no taxes. That's definitely, as an industry, we're hoping that would happen.
No taxes, that is the expectation. But
yes.
What has been the concerns of your members? If finally government will obviously have the final say on it, that's just like how they say in Parliament, with respect to this tax. Are you prepared for it? What are your members saying? Well, possible taxing mobile money.
I think it will be, just to put it bluntly, it will be very unfortunate, because you see, the thing about it is that yes, government needs to raise a lot more revenue, and you would believe that mobile money is one way of formalizing the economy. Government has been talking about digitization, so you would want to say that you would use mobile money to push digitization. Government has been talking about, you know, that this whole conversation that paperless happened, and immediately paperless happened, taxes went up because what compliance improved. You would think that government would also want to use this to rake in a lot more revenue. But let's bear in mind that most of the transactions that happen on mobile money is between merchants and agents. And, you know, virtually 0%, about 75 to 85%. So basically what you're looking at is about 25%. And whatever tax you place on that is going to go and affect the consumer, you know. And George, if you're sending money to your grandmother, you'd already have paid your taxes on that. And also, let's bear in mind, mobile money employs a lot of people, and the implication of that tax itself, the signal it would give to people, it would mean that a lot more people would opt out of that. It would affect jobs that are going to be created. And also, let's bear in mind that these agents and merchants, when, you know, these transactions happen, government earns some withholding tax on the commissions that are paid to them. So already there's some tax even in that area. So for me, I think that government is better off in saying that let's actually grow this mobile money thing. Let's get a lot more people doing it. Let's use that as a means of collecting taxes. Let's use that as a means of formalizing our economy. Let's use that to drive the digitization strategy. Because if everybody can use mobile money to do all we do, then you're able to track the money that is moving around. And also you can use that as a way of collecting and generating taxes and ensuring that you widen the tax bracket. I remember the expert you spoke to talked about, you know, widening the tax bracket, and also making sure compliance happens.
I started hearing this when I was a kid. I don't know how wide the net is, so they are still working on the net.
And I think technology is one of the things that would be able to drive this. And I'm sure my industry players would be able to use technology to support government's drive of making sure that we use mobile money to get everybody on board, and then make sure that the you know, the productive activity that people do, not moving money about, not me giving you money, but the things that generate business for people, we can be able to capture that and tax that appropriately.
Ken, finally, we're talking about the economy expanding. There's talk about the fact that other critical sectors of the economy are not being taxed. My last check on the statistics as of September, in terms of mobile money funds held in banks, over 2 billion Ghana cedis. In terms of transactions, 109 billion Ghana cedis. That's lots of money that if I'm a government, I want to cream part of it.
Yeah, but you see, so go back again and look at how much money do you have that is sitting at the banks. Would you say that just because you have that money sitting there, it is money that goes to the telcos? This is me and you money that we have already paid our taxes on, that is moving around there. That's why I say to you that if you look at most of the transaction, about 80% of that is between merchants and agents, which virtually at no cost. So it's about 25% that in which you're having this on. We cannot be taxing the money. And so if we're going to look at just the transaction, really not that much. And I think that critically, what you really would want to signal is the fact that you want this thing to rather be entrenched. But as we speak about that, we've also heard the fact that government is planning of reducing the cost of electricity, especially for industry. And for me, speaking as an engineer and also from the telcos, I think that is positive, you know, because you want to be able to afford people a lower cost of doing business so that they will be able to employ a lot more people, be able to increase our networks, be able to expand the economy, bring the technology that will be able to drive government strategy, digitization strategy, and be able to formalize this economy of ours.
Finally, I told you, finally, just a quick few minutes. We've seen some consolidation in your industry as well, and now we hear Airtel Tigo.
Yes.
Interesting development.
Well, definitely interesting development, but it also tells you the challenges that are within the industry, doesn't it? You know what I mean? And the fact that this is it's not an industry that normally, you know, there's this whole perception as if it's a cash cow. It's an industry in which your costs are European costs, but your revenues are Ghanaian revenues. But definitely, I think it holds positive for the industry.
Ken Ashibe, Chief Executive, Telecoms Chamber. It's always great to have you on the show and also talk to you. So that's Ken Ashibe. He's the Chief Executive of the Telecoms Chamber, as well, sharing his thoughts on actually proposals to cream part of the over 2 billion Ghana cedis that your funds, my funds, held in commercial banks as a result of mobile money. And what do you actually make of this? So it's still about the 2018 budget here on Marketplace. So whilst we talk about the telecoms industry, the fact is that, you know, Airtel, Tigo, that's how they are right now. The fact that they are making progress in actually becoming a single entity very, very soon, as in finalizing the process to actually merge and become one. Yesterday, they announced the fact that this process is actually getting closer, and very, very soon they will announce that person that would actually come on board. So let's engage some of the telecoms workers union. They're making some passionate appeals to this management, these two companies, that they should look at how to help them to, or they should unionize so they can protect the interest of workers as they work to become one entity.
Not all managements are friendly to union, but you see, the union rather helps management more.
Oh.
Yes, because, you know, we have the collective agreement, and we also have this marriage code. Definitely, the company also have his rules of engagement before taking you on, and we make sure that those people work within a set targets. We are always with them. We always want to keep them in line according to company policies. So, you know, the union is a good thing, but management think the union is there to cause trouble. This time is organic time. No, it's no longer those times that the analog way of doing way. Yes, even though the union has that militancy thing there, it is about sitting down and engaging to that, and also dialoguing on issues. Now we are being regulated by the various labor laws. You don't go and then shout. Even if you shout, you come back to the table.
So that was the Telecommunications Workers Union sharing their views there on the planned measure, that is Tigo, Airtel. They are telling us that it's still the same network. Don't rush, don't actually panic. So Ghanaians can now access world-class homes at highly affordable prices as the construction of 2,000 units of houses at the Apollonia City. Now, this is expected to cut the housing deficit in the country. The project is a partnership between the Apollonia City and the Ghana Home Loans to improve the housing sector. The first of the 100 units are expected to be completed. That is 18 months. Fausia Aturi was there for Joy Business and has come through with this report.
I'm here this morning because the project is in line with government's vision of using an appropriate mix of public policy and private and public investments to deliver quality, affordable social housing and private housing solutions that meets the needs and financial capacity of the ordinary Ghanaian. Government recognizes the dream of all Ghanaians to own a home, and at least to have decent rental accommodation. With a housing deficit of over 1.7 million units, the Apollonia City project is one of several initiatives that will be introduced along the housing value to attain an effective, efficient, and sustainable housing sector. With the construction of the first 100 homes beginning this month, I'm happy to note that the Apollonia community is a shareholder within Apollonia City. Contractors working on the building projects are also to employ and provide skills training to members of the community. It is a laudable initiative, a model I want to encourage others to emulate. The government I lead is a natural cheerleader for the private sector, and we should do all we can to provide the enabling environment for the private sector to flourish in Ghana. I promise the private partners of this project that Ghana will be a great place to do business under my watch. The sector minister will work with you to address any challenges that may arise during the implementation of the project.
That was the President Akufo-Addo. Let's still stay on issues relating to business, because the Ministry for Business Development, in collaboration with the British Council, has actually started a series of lectures to equip young entrepreneurs with the needed skills to survive in the marketplace. The Minister for Business Development, Mohammed Awal, says the incubator series forms part of programs being rolled out to prepare promising entrepreneurs to enable them to take advantage of government industrial parks and being established in the country. Now, government in May announced plans to establish industrial parks in all the 10 regions in the country as part of plans to create employment. Now, speaking at the 13th edition of the lecture series organized by the Global Entrepreneurship Ghana in partnership with the British Council, the minister assured Ghana is on course to actually implement this.
The government will in the coming months establish incubators across all universities to provide young entrepreneurs the chance to test their business ideas before implementing them in the real world. There have been concerns over the rate at which young enterprises keep collapsing in Ghana, with reports pointing to the lack of specialized skills as what hinders entrepreneurs. But speaking to Joy Business, Minister for Business Development, Mohammed Awal says entrepreneurs will soon heave a sigh of relief.
We think that we must create opportunity for young people to test their business ideas. They can fail, they can slip, but they have to get up again. Venturing is very important in business. So we, under the NEP program of government, we are setting up incubators in 4 zonal areas of Ghana: Accra, Kumasi, Takoradi, and Tamale, to give students opportunity, test their ideas, give them business services so that they can grow their businesses and then they can make it.
So when are these incubators going to take shape?
Latest December this year, they'll start. In fact, for the NEP, my colleagues in that NEP have already met university here in Kumasi. I think they're starting up in December, and by January, they roll up. It's not the first time, it's not impossible. Elsewhere around the world, young people have been supported. But what we need to do is to create the mindset for the young people. Let them believe in themselves. Let them know that they can do it. But they cannot do it outside the business environment. That's why government is started stabilizing the economy. The macroeconomic environment is very important. If you stabilize the macroeconomic environment, business can grow.
Meanwhile, Vice Chancellor of the University of Ghana, Professor Ebenezer Oduro Owusu, has announced a special fund for young and potential entrepreneurs in the university. With a seed capital of 10,000 cedis, the fund is expected to provide for well-deserving startups.
How they can put their ideas into good shapes to make sure that they're able to start their own businesses. No matter how small, how stupid the idea is, to start businesses that can grow to become very good businesses.
Well, all too soon, time is not our best friend. We have to draw the curtain down on marketplace as we all wait for the Ejuma budget. How's it going to work for you and I? You're looking forward to the finance minister tomorrow. Have a good afternoon. Have a good Ejuma afternoon, actually.